new faces here today, but a face that isn't new to energy or clean tech is our lunch speaker. Dan Reicher has been committed to this area for his entire career. As U.S. Assistant Secretary at the DOE to Northern Power Systems, which was one of the first venture-backed companies in the space, to New Energy Capital. And finally now, in his role at Google, Dan has truly spanned the political, the startup, the investment, and now the large corporate career. In the last few months since Dan's been at Google, a few of us have been saying, finally, Dan has figured out a way to put the E in Google to stand for energy. Please welcome Dan Reicher.
In a conference in Washington, D.C. that I was at in November, the CEO of a major energy finance firm asked the question, where will the next Google of energy, of renewable energy, come from? And answering his own question, he said, you know, it may come from Google itself. And I Googled renewable energy, and sure enough, Google came up when I Googled renewable energy. So we are getting into the renewable energy business. We made this announcement in November, and I'd like to tell you about what we're up to. First and foremost, this decision for Google to launch itself into clean energy reflects the commitment of the co-founders of the company, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, to help the world realize the decades-old promise of renewable energy and specifically do all we can do to lower the cost of renewable energy. We call this initiative Renewable Electricity Cheaper Than Coal, RE less than C. We figured we have a group of engineers at Google, they like formulas, so we gave it a name, and it's a formula name. RE less than C, renewable electricity cheaper than coal. The goal of RE less than C is, in fact, to produce electricity from renewable sources at a price cheaper than what we can produce it from today from coal. And to really motivate our progress and to measure our results, we have set a very specific objective for Google itself, and that is to develop 1,000 megawatts of renewable electricity cheaper than coal, and to do it in years and not decades. 1,000 megawatts, enough to power the city of San Francisco, cause that to happen, and to do it in years and not decades. So let me give you a quick backstory, as they call it, about this initiative. At one point, our goal was not 1 gigawatt, 1,000 megawatts. It was actually 1.21 gigawatts. Does anybody know the relevance of 1.21 gigawatts? Back to the Future. There was that wonderful scene where the mad scientist yells, 1.21 gigawatts. We need 1.21 gigawatts. He said gigawatts, not gigawatts, to power the flux capacitor of the DeLorean time machine. There was actually a moment at Google when our goal was going to be 1.21 gigawatts with a link in the press release to the movie. Fortunately, adult heads prevailed in the company, and we did not. So why this goal of RE less than C? Why did we focus on that, of all the things that Google could be working on in terms of energy? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward. Renewable electricity simply costs too much today to compete with coal. Because it is cheap, coal is far and away the predominant source of both existing and new electricity capacity worldwide. And consider the numbers. I think you know these. Coal provides 40% of electricity globally, 50% of U.S. electricity. In 2006, China built 100,000 megawatts of coal-fired power. That's roughly 10% in 1 year of the entire U.S. generating capacity. And with these kinds of numbers, it shouldn't be surprising that coal is responsible for a full 40% of global CO2 emissions. Renewable electricity, on the other hand, in simple terms, is expensive. As a result, it has barely made a dent in global or U.S. electricity. Consider the numbers. In very rough terms, photovoltaics are 4 or 5 times more expensive than coal. Solar thermal 3 times as much, geothermal twice as costly, and wind roughly 50% more. And the capacity numbers speak for themselves, with non-hydro renewable electricity capacity at about 2% of generating capacity in both the US and worldwide. 2%, 40% coal, 2% non-hydro renewables. Where renewable electricity has enjoyed mandates and subsidies, or where electricity prices are otherwise high, we certainly have seen significant growth. And California is a stunning example of that. But where renewable electricity has to compete straight up with coal, we just aren't making enough progress. And let me emphasize, this is not because people haven't been working to solve this problem. For decades, talented people have been working to lower the cost of renewable electricity, and there has been great progress. You know, I remember when I got to DOE, people were still talking about the days when photovoltaics cost $1 a kilowatt hour. And the only place they were economic were the wings of the satellites in outer space. We've made huge progress there, but we face a simple economic reality. Price matters, whether it's cars, computers, hamburgers, or electrons. And green electrons, as attractive as they are, simply cost too much to compete with coal today. RE less than C is all about addressing this disparity. And in the balance hangs one of our most important tools in confronting the climate crisis. So given the above, why is Google, a company largely focused on internet search and advertising, getting into the renewable energy business? Well, there are a number of reasons. First, not all that well known, Google is a significant user of electricity at its data centers. At many locations, we simply have not been able to find large-scale, cost-competitive supplies of renewable electricity. We have a talented group of engineers, thousands of them, who love to take on complex and important challenges. We've committed to reducing our environmental footprint, and we want to do more than just offset our carbon emissions, but actually reduce them directly through development of large-scale renewable energy sources. We will enter the offset market. We have to some extent, but what we really want to do is cause projects, invest in projects, do our own projects that actually reduce our environmental footprint.